This here is Boom Studios Go-Go Power Rangers comic, issue number 1.
So, Go-Go Power Rangers begins the day after Jason, Zach, Kimberly, Billy and Trini become Power Rangers. We then begin with the Megazord vs Goldar battle, just like the Day of the Dumpster episode in the original TV show. Bit of fourth wall breaking here, as we're told that the Mastodon and Saber-toothed tigers aren't technically dinosaurs. These sorts of comments have been thrown around the community in reality, so it serves as a bit of a joke here. Just like on the TV show, the Megazord puts up a fight against Goldar, so he retreats to the moon. While we're looking at these pages, I get the feeling the artist drew the Megazord based off the Retro Fire Megazord toy. The proportions just match up. So after the battle, the Rangers just sit and stand on top of the Megazord. Jason is in serious thought as he knows the war's just starting. We then rewind to 3 months before arrival day, with Jason working out in the youth centre at 6 AM. For each of the Rangers we get bits of information revealed to us, so here we see Jason's full name, age, his favourite song, the types of girls he likes, and the fact he doesn't like bullies. It's good to know these things as they say a lot about their characters, and it's fitting that Jason likes Eye of the Tiger, the theme song to Rocky III, a film about boxing. What I don't like though are the personal quotes. For me, they offer nothing at all. Ernie comes in to open up the youth centre and wonders why Jason is there so early. It's here we learn that Jason once took another kid's bow and arrow and snapped it in two. He basically practices karate intensely to make sure he doesn't do something like that again. So Jason was a bit of a bad kid before, whereas in the TV show he didn't have any bad blood in him. We then jump to Angel Grove High with the focus on Zach walking into school. Compared to the TV show version, this Zach doesn't take things as seriously and is even more of a ladies' man here. Next up, Billy and Trini. They're talking about Trini's crush, with Trini afraid to tell the person that she likes him because of fear of rejection and humiliation. And it appears Trini moved around quite a lot before arriving at Angel Grove. All of a sudden Billy gets hit by a water balloon, and it's pretty obvious it was Bulk and Skull's dirty work. As Billy walks into the school, someone calls out and says he needs to learn to duck after seeing his hair soaking wet. He's willing to get the football team to duct tape Bulk to the goalpost, but Billy declines. This guy is Matthew Cook, an original character from Boom Studios. Now, in issue 17 of the main Power Rangers comic, Kimberly walked out of an awkward conversation with her mother because she brought up an ex-boyfriend in that conversation, and the guy was called Matthew. This is that guy. More on him a bit later. Now, this is where things get interesting on the moon. In Day of the Dumpster, the two astronauts release Rita and co, and that was that. We didn't see the astronauts leave the moon, we didn't see Rita killing them or whatever. Boom Studios elaborates on what happened to them, borrowing elements from Zyuohger, the series Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was adapted from. So one of the astronauts is of Japanese ancestry, a Zyuohger reference there, as the astronauts were Japanese. The astronauts that released Pandora in Zyuohger, Rita's Japanese counterpart, were blown away. Here they are captured by Rita so she can get some information out of them about Earth. It's interesting to see here that the putties have restrained the astronauts, like there's some kind of living wall, a trait not seen in the TV show. And also the astronauts are from NASA, a space program equivalent to NASA in real life, and as first mentioned in the later series Power Rangers Turbo, as the Rangers went into space. Next we see all the Rangers except Kimberly at the youth centre, with concerns about being found out that they're Power Rangers, which is why they don't morph to help clean up the city after their battle. Then we see Zach still has trust issues with Zordon, just like in Day of the Dumpster. And since the first battle, Trini and Billy's parents keep checking up on them to make sure they're okay. Suddenly, Jason's phone rings and it's Alpha on the line. Zack dubs this a space phone. Whilst it seems funny, there is some logic to this. First of all, the Power Rangers don't have wrist communicators yet. Billy hasn't invented them. So how were the Rangers supposed to communicate with Zordon and Alpha before they got the communicators? With this phone. Next, we see Kimberly and Matthew together at a makeout spot. Just as it seems the two of them are about to kiss, Kimberly's phone goes off. It's not a space phone, but a regular smartphone, and it's Trini texting her to report to the command center. Kimberly has to leave, but Matthew assumes it's just girl stuff, and doesn't argue or anything like that. Zordon believes Rita is planning her next attack, and we return to the issue of the astronauts. Zordon realizes they never return to Earth, and assume they've been captured. Jason decides he wants to take the Rangers to the moon, but Zordon initially advises against that. Billy doesn't want to go, and neither does Trini, but that's because of her fear of heights. Zack is totally up for it on the other hand. But before they depart, Trini has to have another phone call with her mother, and Kimberly has to text Matthew, lying about what they're doing. Billy is reluctant to go, but Zack promises him he'll do great. And with that, the Rangers strike the morph pose most of us are familiar with, and they all morph into action. They immediately teleport to the moon and strike the same pose as they do on the TV show. It's great to see some show accuracy here, as it shows a lot of effort has gone into this. A few things here. One, it's funny the Rangers point out the neon sign which says Bandora Palace, as that was carried over from Dual Engine when the footage was adapted for the TV show. 2. Billy says he's happy the helmets allow them to breathe in space. Now, what Billy said makes sense. But in the TV series, Rangers were able to breathe on the moon without their helmets. The biggest example is in Power Rangers Wild Force, when the Red Rangers in Forever Red were on the moon's surface without their helmets on. We never actually got an in-universe explanation, and people have assumed that the moon was given an atmosphere because of Rita's presence. Anyway, the explanation for this case in the comic is that the helmets allow them to breathe. Soon, an army of putties come charging towards the Rangers. First of all, there are a lot of putties. Rita never sent down that many in the TV show. And 2, the Rangers have their power weapons already, so we can assume Zordon just gave them to the Rangers right from the start, rather than later, as was the case in the episode Teamwork, which was the 3rd episode of the original series. Jason tells the other Rangers to head inside the palace to find the astronauts, while he stays to fight all the putties himself. The other Rangers locate the astronauts in a jiffy, but Goldar stands in their way. Zack and Billy take on Goldar, whilst Kimberly and Trini rescue the astronauts. Jason approaches Rita, but she attacks first and sends Jason flying through a wall, and that's how the other Rangers find him. We finish off with Rita saying she was listening in on the Rangers the whole time, and has learned their names. It was never explained in universe how Rita learned the identities of the Power Rangers, but again, Boom Studios has given us a bit of an explanation for this series. That's it for the first issue. I found the comic quite interesting because this ties in with Boom Studios' main Power Rangers comic as a bit of a prequel, but we still need basic knowledge of the original TV show to understand how the Rangers came to be. This comic was designed to tell the readers more about the Rangers and answering questions which weren't answered on the TV show. What I didn't like about this issue was the storytelling in the first couple of pages. First, we start during the events of Day of the Dumpster. We then rewind just for a bit of history on Jason. Then we're in school but don't know when that takes place, presumably in the present. It got confusing here because we then end up on the moon and it says, "The moon now." So were the last 3 pages 3 months ago, or the present? And then we're in the youth centre in the present, even though it doesn't say that, but we know it is because the Rangers are talking about events after their battle. Once I got past that though, the storytelling was a lot clearer and made more sense. This is a nice supplement to the main Power Rangers comic, so I look forward to getting the future issues.